All right, here we go again. I'm not going to walk on this broadcast. It'll be short, and then I'll start up again, and then I'll take my walk on the treadmill. This is in reference to how to keep these funding requests, these funding needs in the forefront of the funding mind. So what Texas needs to do is develop a annual survey system, and you could actually even increase it to quarterly and then do a major survey. You just touch base quarterly with a minor conversation with each one of the counties. Right? There's somebody that you're going to appoint, or somebody's that'll be responsible for all of this. So they send out these surveys, and in the surveys you have suggestions of types of equipment that they could use. Do you have this? Do you need this? And then you'll leave a section open for suggestions where they come up with information and give you input. You know, they come up with some requests that maybe you didn't cover or you didn't know exist. So what you're doing is you're communicating back and forth so that these requests don't get lost in the sauce, and you, as a state, know exactly what the county has at the state level, not necessarily somebody just... Because again, there'll be somebody at the state level, there'll be somebody at the county level working for the state, and then the county rep. So there'll be somebody in the state or a team that's responsible for monitoring all this stuff. Right. And then those surveys get filled out by the county and then turned in by a certain date, so that you can look at your budget, look at the requests. Right. Yeah, and you have to be realistic about it and professional about it. You have to really look at what's there, and you got to make sure that people aren't being political around it. Providing it to this county and not providing it to that county, because again, you want to save lives. You don't want to play games with it. So that county knew it needed something, and that same story played out in thousands of other counties across the United States. So this is not a process. Again, they're trying to muckrake with it. It's not a process that is just isolated incident where these people didn't get their money and this person's responsible and that person's responsible. I mean, they actually identified the fact that nobody will pay for it. Right. But again, the only way to make sure that request stays there, and you talk about 2017, well, it's a lot of budget requests from here to there, and if every year it was put in, somewhere along the way it may have worked. And probably would have. Again, there was times of budget surplus and things like that, I think, that had occurred since 2017. So the way to do it is to create a survey system annually, and then quarterly I would, just have some sort of conversation. Where are you? Do you see exigency in something? And again, I put the shelters in there because you're going to have to... You can't run a camp without a shelter system, right? And again, the shelter could have been, I don't know the elevation of Camp Mystic's other side. There's two sides to it. One's by the water or by the river, and the other one, is up a little higher elevation, I think. So you would, that could be their shelter. It could have been the other side. There could have been built structures on the other side that qualify as the shelter from the storm. And they designate that so every time the alert goes off, they go over that location. So there's going to have to be something at the camps at night. So if they enter into a night, again, if you upgrade your system, it may not be necessary. But initially, if they enter into an evening where they're sleeping, they need to be at a certain elevation if it's raining, at a certain level. Right. I don't think that the Weather Service could have triggered the evacuation there. I just really don't. And there wasn't really enough time for anything else to happen. So the only way to get this done is to put these requests in for information, interchange back and forth. They're called surveys. The one I used to participate in is the courthouse security surveys. All that equipment you see in the courthouse, whether it needs to be, what do you have? So every year you're asking that same question. What do you have? What needs to be updated? I think you probably could maybe take the information from last year and kind of include that to help them with it. But again, you don't want to get into a pencil whipping scenario where they just go with last year's data because something may have been removed, right? Or something may be failing and it doesn't work. And that'll keep all that stuff in the forefront of the funding mind. Because again, you may do that survey and something happened that year in Dallas where there was a lot of people that lost their life to rains. And so you're thinking, well, this is a different county, but maybe we need to start thinking about this a little bit more. So again, if you see it every year, then you have a better chance of getting it funded. So it's a deliberate process. So again, you can use that for other types of programs also, so that things don't get lost in the sauce. Well, anybody that's going to run a campground needs to have a designated high ground shelter. I don't know what that elevation is, whether those buildings actually even qualify. Don't go crazy. Again, you can actually have separate levels of evacuation, separate elevations that they need to get to based upon what you see heading their way. So the plan for a major evacuation to a higher ground might be something that they never do, or something that's maybe 2 miles away or 3 miles away. I don't know. Each case is different. It looks to be that if that campground where the RVs were in the tiny homes had actually just went up on that hill, they'd have been fine. I don't know for sure, but right. And of course they did evacuate somewhere at Camp Mystic where they were rescued from. So even though it may have flooded, it didn't flood as much. So this is the only way really to do this. You need to do the security surveys. And again, fund the systems. It's kind of, reading it, it's aggravating, but, I don't think, again, the people that are criticizing what was done and what could have been done are the people that cursed it away. Believe you me. That's how it works. They curse my life. They physically operate my life. They fail my life and then say, look, his life has failed. What's wrong with that guy? That's really who they are. My goodness. Again, they might tell you they're a Democrat today and tell you they're a Republican tomorrow. It's a game they play. And that game is called extortion, racketeering, organized crime, narcotics distribution, sex trafficking, deprivation of rights under color of law, and all the above. And the statute of limitations has not begun to run on the crimes committed against my life because they never stopped. It's one long criminal conspiracy with people being put in all over the place. Why are they being put in? Because you're a criminal and a devil. And your father is Satan. Period. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.